Joining us now from the Old Dominion State is Republican candidate for Virginia's 10th Congressional District, Jeffrey Dove Jr. Jeffrey, thank you very much for joining us tonight. So, as we were saying, this is very much so a competitive district. Now you're getting involved in this race. Why are you running for Congress in 2020?
Thanks for having me on. So, one of the things that we were able to accomplish last cycle was we built a large coalition of grassroots support around the country. I feel like I have a lot of unfinished business to accomplish, and so I'm running for this seat because I think that I have a lot to offer to our nation.
And when it comes to Jennifer Wexton, too, I mean, there's a reason why you're running against her. You obviously don't think that she's a proper fit for Virginia's 10th Congressional District. And you are, of course, a Republican. You have a different agenda. You have a different ideology. Why is Jennifer Wexton not the best fit for your district?
She is very partisan. I mean, hyper partisan to the extent that she has been putting certain groups ahead of other groups and not necessarily representing the entire district's uh, well-being. I can say she's been focused on issues that aren't the focus of the people of the district. She's put her support behind our governor, who's got his various issues, whether it's regarding life or whether it's regarding the Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment issues. She's shown that she's a hyper partisan political figure.
And, we've talked about this several times at this point now. Virginia is going to be a big state if Republicans want to take back the lower chamber. I mean, it's competitive in a number of districts, yours included, but it's overall part of a bigger overall strategy by the Republican Party to take back the House. And, of course, a big part of that does come in Virginia. And there's a crowded field of Republicans at this point trying to get that nomination. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you believe that you're the best Republican to challenge Jennifer Wexton.
So I've always had this itch for public service. It's why I joined the military. It's why I'm, running for Congress as well. One of the things that differentiates me from my opponents in this race is my background in IT. Some of the things that I put forward, you can go on my website, www.doveforcongress.com, and see where I stand as it relates to my agenda for day one. One of the things that I'll be pushing for is adding multi-factor authentication to every transaction related to Social Security numbers,
Hmm.
because I think that we need to add more security to that. That's something that our elected officials don't focus enough on. We always focus on our physical security and not the digital security of all Americans. So that's something I'm focused on.
And so when it comes to this, too, I mean, a lot of people are kind of saying that there's different types of lawmakers that can come out this time. Some people, for example, I'll use the presidential race as an example. Joe Biden says that he wants to be the type of person who reaches out across the aisle, who can work with Republicans. But then you hear some of the other presidential candidates, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, saying that's not the case at all. We need a fighter. We need someone who is going to stand up for our ideals. We need people to do that. So when it comes to the big picture of where we are as a political climate, there are kind of different ways to go about running campaigns. And your seat right now, the House seat as well, that's a competitive district. Once again, it's going to be a very close race no matter who gets the nomination. What type of lawmaker do you want to be if you were to get not only the nomination, but elected to Congress?
My last name is Dove, but by no means am I necessarily a dove. I can be a hawk in certain cases. I'd say one of the things about me is in my last race, I did over 23 town halls or candidate forums. I spoke to people from various backgrounds. One of the things that I love to do is speak to people that disagree with me, so that I can get a better sense of where they stand. And honestly, a lot of times we can play off of each other and figure things out. One of the things that I pride myself on is being able to work with anyone to accomplish things. That's part of what comes with being in the military. Doesn't matter what your background is. At the end of the day, you're just trying to accomplish your mission. And I think our mission is making the country as best as it can be for the American people. And I think that that's something that I will be focused on daily. I will fight for my principles, but I'll also be willing to compromise on things that I think are to the benefit of the American people.
I feel like there's a campaign slogan to be made there somewhere with the Dove Hawk thing. I like that a lot. That was really good. But
Maybe.
so I also want to ask, too, that when it comes to your district, too, I mean, I can't stress the idea enough that this is going to be a very competitive race. I mean, we saw in 2018 and even before that a lot of money poured into this district, especially in favor of the Democrat candidate last time. A lot of big names came out and endorsing. What type of hurdles do you see moving forward in this campaign?
I think the biggest thing that we have to contend with as Republicans in Virginia, just overall, is the organization that the Democratic Party has presented us, and we've seen since 2017 as I've been going around the state. One of the things I noticed on Election Day 2019 was if you go to polling places from McLean, Virginia, which is highly populated, to an area maybe like Winchester that's not as highly populated, you saw Democrats had 2 to 4 volunteers at every single polling place handing out sample ballots. And that's something as Republicans we have to be able to do as well. We have to be able to compete in all these areas, whether it's door knocking or getting out the vote. That's the biggest thing: is get into the Republican areas, get out the vote, and even get these independent voters on our side and
Yeah.
get them out as well.
I think that's a very good strategy, too, because, I mean, if you look at some of the less accomplished races from 2018, a big part of it wasn't necessarily people switching from Republican to Democrat or anything like that. It was the turnout. People just weren't necessarily coming out the same way. And you may have an advantage in 2020 with President Trump on the top of the ticket. But if people want to learn more about your campaign, we had the web address up for a second. I'm sure we'll put that back up. But where can they learn a little bit more, not only about you, but the campaign that you're hoping to run moving forward as well?
So you can visit my website, www.doveforcongress.com. We put out all our information there. I'm also on social media. I'm on Twitter all the time, Facebook, Instagram, not so much, but we're working on that. You can reach out to me at jeffrey.dove@doveforcongress.com as well. I answer all emails.
That's awesome. And as once again, we have your website right there for all of our viewers who do want to reach out to you. Jeff, I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight. You got a really interesting campaign coming ahead, and we're going to be sure to keep an eye on it. Thank you for joining us tonight.